Hey Divas, today is Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. There's an event happening tonight at SCADFASH, and I want to take y'all with me. It's a photography kind of like lecture, talk back. So I'm going to take y'all with me. So let's go.
Which kind of fits into all the things we're going to talk about tonight, because like looking at the audience, I see the future of Atlanta, the students here at SCAD, this amazing school, but I also see Atlanta's past, which is made of all these incredible creatives who I've worked with, who have been instrumental in building the core of what has become the cultural zeitgeist that Atlanta is now. And I think, let's give ourselves a round of applause. So I think that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And that's why I wanted to do this, to introduce the photographers we're going to talk to. And unfortunately, Ahmad and Dante cannot be here tonight. They have a scheduling conflict, but do not fret. I think we're going to get some good things from Alan Cooley and James Hicks, who I'm going to introduce right now. Alan and James. So I just want to go through like the typical like one your bio and all those other things. I want to kind of come out through conversation, you know. And James, can I share what we talked about outside in the green room?
Yeah, sure.
So everyone, give James some grace. You know, James is a legend in this industry, but this is his first time doing a camera like this. You know, so let's just give him a nice hug. I'm so excited to have him here today because we both went to Morales, you know, Morales College. Yes, absolutely. And over the course of my career, I've often heard of Alan and, you know, interacting with him and his work. So tonight is a great melding of those talents, right? So you all have had a chance to see Campbell Adams exhibit, correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay, great. And so I wanted to, in the context of Campbell's work, who I had a chance to interview a couple of years ago when I was the editor-in-chief of a magazine called Edition. We featured Campbell, and I had an interview with him, and loved his work, and I was so excited when Alex, the executive director of SCAD, when she told me that they were having an exhibit here, and this is his very first solo exhibition in America, which is a pretty big deal, right? And so here we have this young queer black man who is doing like this global work, you know. And so I started thinking to myself, Atlanta is on the map, and there's so many creators here who are doing work that is on people who are doing things now is on the back of those and their work. And I think that's what we have here today. So, Alan, let's start with you. So, just in thinking about Campbell's work, like, and your work, how do you, being a photographer based in Atlanta, like, how do you define and capture elegance and authenticity in your work?
I think that one of the things that I noticed as I kind of matriculated through this idea of photography or being a photographer and working in this space was this idea that I had to participate in what existed already, right? Like I had to kind of assimilate in some ways, whether it be my aesthetic or how I approached work. And I think that when I really kind of accepted the fact that it didn't really matter what y'all wanted to see, it was about what I wanted to do because it was a manner of how I wanted to express myself. I thought that there was some liberation in being able to kind of center myself. And when I mean by that, obviously, I don't take pictures of myself. So when I say center myself, I mean people that look like me, that look like my mother, and my daughters, my wife, whomever, my father, etc. So I think that my goal when I capture work is essentially to capture reflections of myself, and I think that was something that I was able to see in his work as well, like the freedom to see myself however I wanted to.
Excellent, excellent. So how did you get to that point? So just in talking about your work, you know, you're known for your editorial work, you're known for your brand campaigns that you've done, working with celebrities, models, all the such. How did you get to the point where you were comfortable in yourself and having confidence in your work? How did you get to that?
It's still early in the night, so I'm being mindful of how like comfortable I'm gonna get as far as what I say. Some of y'all might know what I mean, but I think what it was that I saw a lot of people trying to be accepted in spaces or industries that were reluctant to allow them in the room, and I didn't know why. I had no desire to be in a room that didn't want me in there. So it was easy for me to enjoy just creating work that reflected people that I already acknowledged that I loved.
And that speaks to Campbell's work as well, because part of the 4 sections, and it kind of, he encompasses what it means to doubt yourself as an artist, and going through that whole trajectory of doubt to a point where you can be confident in your work. And I'm sure a lot of students here can relate to that. And also, you're a professor. He's actually a SCAD graduate.
Oh, nice.
SCAD professor as well at one point, right? How do you, or what specific things did you say, or what advice would you give to students in regards to that? That gets to the point of having that confidence.
I already said that. I can't pinpoint anything in particular that I would say is primarily because I was an adjunct professor, obviously, like you said, but one of the things that we did here was you were creating work based off of what you wanted to do, at least initially, right? The conversation ended up kind of translating into like, how does this work matter to someone outside of yourself, right? And I think that's when things get tricky, because sometimes things can be so personal that they don't matter to anybody else. And if you're in an institution that has like a certain structure and a rubric, etc., there's like this need to try to adjust what you're doing to fit, right? And I don't think that I was encouraging students to push themselves away from where they naturally were or where they naturally wanted to be. But I don't know what I said in particular. I kind of felt like the rest of the faculty were going to do what they were going to do, and I was going to be adjacent to that.
Thank you for that. And I think that's an ongoing process. I think that anyone who is an artist of any type, we're always dealing with that. And for myself, in my writing career, my media career, it's always, especially as a person of color, you're always thinking like, oh, do I belong here? Oh, should I be in this room? Oh, does this work matter? And I think the older you get, and the more experience you acquire, you start to realize, you start to look around and you say, wait a minute, I absolutely deserve to be here. But that's a long trajectory, right? And I remember one time I was working at Warner Bros. Discovery, and we were giving a send-off to one of the interns, and we were trying to give her advice, and I told her, I said, in no uncertain terms, you're gonna find yourself in rooms where you're surrounded by people who have all of these degrees, all of this status, this station, and you have to absolutely make sure that you tell yourself, that you deserve to be there just as much as they do. Because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to figure it out. And we're all trying to figure out and create, right? So James, Mr. Hicks. Yes. So in regards to the same question, like how do you deal with, well, first of all, I'm gonna get to some of your work a little later. But your work is like the epitome of like beauty and identity. You've done some incredible work. Extremely beautiful. How do you get to the point where you are comfortable with sharing images? Like how do you get to the point of creating those images?
I've been in the business for so long, like 4 years in, and I kind of at one point just ate and drank and breathed fashion. So I studied. Even before I picked up a camera, I was interested in fashion. I was actually best dressed in my high school. It was like, I just really kind of fell in love with fashion, and I would, when I was at school in the 70s, early 80s, I would go to Lenox Square to Yves Saint Laurent Rive Gauche, and I would watch the footage of the shows in Europe, in Paris, and I was just kind of blown away. And even prior to that, my aunts and they had Vogue and Bazaar, and I growing up in the 70s, there was a bit more representation of people of color, and also I grew up in DC, so it was like, and it was very much chocolate city then, so everybody I knew was black, had black teachers, black principals, black mayor, black doctors, black lawyers, so there was really nothing that we felt, growing up in DC that we couldn't do. So so I studied those magazines even back then, and even seeing, you know, advertising with black models. So I think came into it with a confidence.
Okay.
You know, I was already, you know, kind of geared towards that. Again, even before, and I used to draw too. I actually drew some of the models that are in my book, which is kind of surreal, you know. And it's like I call them friend now, you know. But yeah, I would say that's where my kind of eye and confidence, you know, about my work. And,
having that kind of affirmation and kind of affirming, you know, character contact and community is so important. You know, that's extremely important. So, okay, so I guess we can jump into. I asked these two gentlemen to share a few examples of their work, and so we can go through that and, you know, see what they have to say in regards to Campbell's expedition. Here we go. Now, this is Mr. Cooley. If you can explain and just talk us through this image here.
So I want to speak like on I'm gonna make it like macro and then make it micro, right? If anybody in here is an artist, we acknowledge there's a difference between being an artist and being a working artist, right? So I do a lot of work, right? I also do a lot of art, and then I sometimes have the opportunity to turn that art into work. Does that make sense? Whether that be selling or doing a show or being hired for a specific body of work outside of the commercial work. So I think that it's valuable to acknowledge that you might end up creating art for yourself, and that is going to have to be enough in some cases, right? So my father is from Mobile, Alabama, right? I don't know if anybody's familiar with Mobile, Alabama, but when I was a kid, I'm from New York, we would drive from New York to Mobile, Alabama, and it would be me, my mother, my father, my sister, and the dog, and a two-door Toyota Corolla 4-speed. Yes. Yes. It was like there was broke, and then below that there was us. Right? And when we would drive down there, it felt like, because like I said, I'm New York, Brooklyn. It felt like the same people were on the same porches wearing the same thing that I saw every time we drove down there. And when I would ride down there, I would literally just be thinking like, when I get to this street and we make this left, that lady is going to be sitting right there. Sure enough, she would be. Or that guy would be standing right there. Sure enough, he would be. And the thing that photography personally gave me was a reason to look, right? Like it gave value to the experience more so than it being like some type of a judgment thing. Like I wasn't looking at them to marginalize it to other, but they were now a part of my experience, because if they were missing, I was concerned. Right? If we drove down the street and that lady wasn't on that porch or that guy wasn't standing outside, I was worried for that person I didn't even know. Right? And I think that there was like this weird way for photography to kind of play a role in their life. I mean, at this point, this is a series that I had called Porch Top Life, and I've had the opportunity through my gallery to show this work all over the world. So this lady may not have ever left her porch with her image in, right? And I think that matters to me. That's one of the superpowers of the field.
That's amazing. And here you talk about, you know, basically documenting what's around you. You know, it reminds me of Dave Baldwin when he said that, you know, he lives to be a witness. He works about being a witness, you know, and that's what I see here as I get from you. So yeah, so that's amazing that you can, through your work, you then create a relationship with the person who you don't know, and now you're caring for them. Like that's the power of art.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. So here you go. Now this is in sharp contrast to the previous.
Right. I just wanted to take a pretty picture. I wanted it to be something deep because I'm in here and I want to say something, but it was just, we got a bunch of people together that either did hair, makeup, design. We came together and collaborated on something we thought was dope, and I'm okay with that.
No, no, but the funny thing is, you should be okay with it. Right. Because it actually harkens back to what you said earlier about just creating work sometimes for yourself. And that work will then correlate to some paid work.
Right.
You know? Because, to give you part of my story, when I started this industry, I worked for free for a year and a half. Literally worked for free for a year and a half. And after that year and a half, and I took the person who was under took their job. But before that, worked for free. So that goes to show you, sometimes you need to gather your friends together and just create some dope shit. Right. Okay. So cool. And here, now I love that you included this in your collection that you wanted to talk about, but I'll let you talk about it first before I say why.
So, I have a 5-year-old girl, I have a 2-year-old girl. So I still consider myself to be a new dad, but it feels like they're like 18 and they've been putting me through it for a very, very long time. But one of the things that I thought that was unique was that most of my friends that are black men had children